Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today we honor the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a man who gave his life in the struggle for racial justice and equality. In the face of hatred, racism, bigotry, and violence, Dr. King led a peaceful revolution based on love and common brotherhood, and reminded all Americans of the principles upon which this nation was founded, that every human being has a God-given right to dignity, equality, and natural rights. President Abraham Lincoln predicted more than a century and a half ago that the immortal words of our Declaration of Independence, that all men are created equal, would serve as a rebuke and a stumbling block to tyranny and oppression. Dr. King proved himself right when he famously spoke those words during his 1963 March on Washington. Like Dr. King, I have 4 beautiful children, 2 who are young women of color. My husband and I believe it's important to learn about and acknowledge our history, the good and the bad. We also share a deep gratitude for the sacrifices made by past generations, so that we here today can live freer, happier, and more prosperous lives. When my kids were young, we made frequent trips to Washington, D.C. Our first stop was always Arlington National Cemetery, to really impress upon our kids what Lincoln meant by the last full measure of devotion. We would always visit Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial and read his many words inscribed there. To quote one of my favorites, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly." For a multiracial family like mine, those words ring true. Our next stop was always the Lincoln Memorial, in front of which Dr. King deliberately chose to deliver his I Have a Dream speech. Mr. Speaker, when our founders began this experiment in self-government, they spoke of their desire to form a more perfect union. At Gettysburg, Lincoln called on those living to dedicate themselves to unfinished work. And now here today, we are celebrating the achievements of Dr. King and the civil rights movement that he dedicated his life to advance, but the work is not done. When we adopted our beautiful, smart, and courageous daughter, who is Haitian American, we were required to meet with a licensed clinical psychologist, where we discussed many aspects of what it would look like for our family to have adopted children of color. One of the things I remember the most for that visit was her words discussing how she feels in a box when she indicates her race, which was African American. She told my husband and I that she always checks the box other and writes human race, because that is who she is. Every year on this day, we not only reflect on Dr. King's legacy, but we take account for the many strides we've made towards achieving racial equality. While we've come far, let us rededicate ourselves today to that unfinished work, understanding that we're all tied together in a single garment of destiny, and embrace each other as fellow Americans, brothers and sisters and children of God. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.